Ram presents The Canadian Tradition.
Well, on this week's episode, it's all about whitetails, whitetails, whitetails. We're here in my home province of Ontario, going after a late season buck.
The Canadian Tradition is brought to you by Ram, built to serve. Cabela's, world's foremost outfitter. Under Armour, go where you don't belong. Polaris, the world leader in off-road. Steel, get the job done. Winchester, the American legend. Leupold, be relentless. Toyo Tires, driven to perform. Lund Boats, the ultimate fishing experience. WeatherTech, nothing protects like WeatherTech. And by Ducks Unlimited Canada, our wetlands, our future.
Being able to hunt whitetail deer for me, I don't think you can get a better big game animal. A whitetail deer is so versatile, and it can be found from the very east coast of Canada right to the west coast of Canada. And they're a very hardy animal. If there's a way that an animal is going to survive, probably a whitetail deer is going to be your animal. We've had the opportunity to hunt these things on Anacostia Island, in the Gulf of the St. Lawrence, right out to the province of Alberta. And the habitat that these animals call home can range no matter where you go. But being here in my home province of Ontario, late season deer hunting, I think, is the epitome of whitetail deer hunting for me. It allows me the opportunity to key in on specific deer, to hunt the deer very smart, very logistically, in order to afford yourself an opportunity at a true giant. A big question that a lot of people ask is, how do you continually be successful in the world of bow hunting or even rifle hunting whitetail deer? I'm a big believer in that the more time a deer spends on your property, the chances of you getting an opportunity at harvesting that deer can only increase. When it comes to late season deer hunting, there's a few things I'm going to look at. One is bedding habitat. These deer, especially when you get some colder temperature and some snow on the ground, they're going to look for thermal cover, which can either be swamp grass, tall grasses, something that's going to provide them a bit of a wind block. Next, you're going to want to look for a hot food source. Here in the province of Ontario, we're allowed to supplemental feed deer and use attractants, which are going to get those deer coming into your areas. In some other different provinces, you can't do that. So you're going to want to look for a field that's maybe just been combined, a field that's been cut, right down to if you're hunting in big bush country. Early season, you're going to have those acorn drops. So you really have to figure out what those deer are feeding on in a particular time of year. For me, late season, I can place those feeding areas right close to bedding areas, which, I mean, is probably the best case scenario that you can have. And when Britt was coming out to join me for a whitetail hunt, that's exactly the kind of setup that we have. As the whitetail season progressed, we quickly found ourselves in mid-December, and I had the opportunity to get back in the tree stand with Brittany. Now, you've seen Brittany. She's had the opportunity to come out on quite a few hunts with me across Canada, whether that be woodland caribou hunts in Newfoundland to elk hunts out in Alberta. I mean, gone are the days of the man bringing home the food for the table, because when it comes to hunting, I actually do think my wife might be a little bit better than me, and that's probably because of her patience. So, I mean, for her to have the opportunity to provide for our family and to put some fresh wild game meat on the table, she just gets really excited about that. Mid-December is one of her favorite times of year to get in the tree stand. She's had great luck in the past, and we're only hoping to build off that this evening. Getting into her hunt this evening, it started off great. It was just a beautiful day, cold temps. There wasn't snow on the ground, but we had a good feeling that those deer were going to be on their feet and moving.
Something's coming. Got a deer coming in. It's hard to say what it is. It's definitely got a big body on it. Hard to tell at first, but I actually think we have a buck coming into the bait. He's already dropped his antlers.
I thought it was a doe, but upon Brittany having a look through those optics, she turned to me and she said, no, it's a buck. It's already lost its antlers.
Got another deer coming in. It's definitely a buck, and he's lost his antlers already. He's still pretty dominant, though. He's pushing a lot of the does off. Hopefully he doesn't stir things up too much.
Sitting there, not being the hunter, I could look at Britt and kind of see the worry in her eyes. Here we had two mature bucks that we've already seen this evening. Both haven't had their antlers on. They've already shed their antlers. We thought, holy, you know, we might be lucky to see one with antlers this time of year.
Oh, here comes a beauty buck. Oh, I hope he comes in.
Sure enough, just like a great novel, we had some worry, we had some doubt, and right as you got to the end of the chapter, we looked across this meadow and saw a beautiful buck. I mean, the sun was hitting that deer, and for the next 10 minutes, we really had a front row seat of Mother Nature at its finest.
He's putting the run on some doe, so I hope that they don't spook off and he just follows them right in.
You could tell that he was really the king of that meadow.
He's got 10. What a beauty with the sun hitting his back. I gotta get my bottle.
I gotta give credit where credit's due. Britt was on the ball, and she really has become very proficient at reading the body language of deer.
Come a little closer. Man, is he nice. He's following this doe out. He's following her out. Get a shot.
You could just see how the situation was about to unfold. That doe became a bit antsy, that buck kind of bristled up, and you knew that he was going to leave dodge. So she had a very small window to try to sneak that arrow down at a shot. That buck stepped out in her shooting lane, the last shooting lane that she had. I grunted him to a stop, and she put that arrow right where you wanted.
Yes, I got him. That was awesome. Oh, let's hope he doesn't go too far. There's hardly enough snow to make a good blood trail. So hopefully we can just get out of here quietly and go back to camp. We're gonna have a look at the footage, make sure that I did in fact make a good shot, and come back with some headlamps and see if we can find him. That is a reassuring sign. There is a fair amount of blood from one end to the other, so wish me luck. There's a little drop there. Thank goodness for this small amount of snow. I think I see a good sign. Ah, yes! What a beauty! Look at this guy. I tell you, this is sweet this year, more than ever. I'm happy and just relieved to have harvested such a beautiful animal and just to provide some good eats for my daughter, and she's gonna love this.
Why are you crying?
I don't know, this is the first year I've really been kind of emotional over it, but just to know that, you know, you put your time in, and I mean, you're taking the life of an animal, so you're grateful for it, and especially when it's going directly to table and feeding your children, it makes it, you know, there's meaning to each meal that you make. When I prepare these meals for my family, it's just special. So I'm just thankful. I'm really thankful this year, and he's beautiful. Look at that, a really nice 10. Just everything you could hope for.
With Britt filling her tag, the excitement kind of built for me because here we are, we're getting ready and for those last 2 weeks of the season. I've still got my whitetail tag in my pocket, and the one specific deer that we were trying to target that I knew lived on this property was a buck we aptly named Heart Attack. He was a gorgeous 10-point, and I actually had seen him roughly about the same time of year last year. I was in a ground blind and he came out not 100 yards from me, and for 2.5 hours, I watched that deer go from 120 yards to 90 yards. So getting into late season, I knew that if we got some cold conditions, that I might just see this buck again. Look at the size of that for a cellular trail camera. Good folks at Spy Point just sent me a bunch of these. They'll be available on the market next year. Certainly for a small camera, they pull their weight. When it comes to deer hunting, I've been called a gear junkie, and I am. I mean, I absolutely love good tools that can really help give you the edge when it comes to connecting on a big buck. Over Christmas time, guess what happened? My cell phone lit up. Heart Attack was back. The bummer part about it is the first day he showed up was December 24th. I've got to be at home with the family over Christmas, and for the next 3 days, I watched that buck daylight hours in front of my stand, and there was not a thing I could do about it. Here we are, December 28th. I'm back in the whitetail woods. It's my first night being able to hunt Heart Attack. Well, here it is, December 28th, and I tell you, I'm feeling pretty fortunate right now. Not just because I've got a really big buck that's showing up on one of my spots, but I have a loving wife that has allowed me to come out here and continue hunting. And this is as quick as I could get here. It's December 28th. What's left of snow is melting. I mean, not great late season conditions, but for some reason this big buck has been daylight the last couple days. So we're getting in our stand early. We've got 3 days left to see if we can't seal the deal on this buck that we call Heart Attack. Fingers crossed. Well, we just got to the base of the tree. We did push a couple deer out of this field, but we're really expecting these deer to come across this open field kind of behind us and then continue to feed on out in front of these beans that we have in front of us. So we're in the stand nice and early, and we'll see what plays out. Getting into the stand that evening, I was just filled with so much anticipation. I was wondering, how could this go down? Here we had this buck, a buck that really was like a ghost all season long, suddenly show up and be daylight hours for 3 consecutive days in a row. And I was just wondering, would he do it the 4th day? I'm finally back, I've got a good wind, and I could only sit there and wait, and hopefully this buck would stick to his pattern. Upon getting into the stand, we instantly looked across to some crop fields, and we could see a good volume of deer already starting their nighttime routine. This was very promising, and quickly pulled up those loopholes and checked out that herd of deer in the field. Our buck wasn't in there, but it was a very promising sign. Some does there. Okay, that's a decent buck on that far, far field. Probably like 800 yards. 650. About another half hour went by and the evening was starting to look better. We had some does coming in, some smaller bucks. Okay, that smaller buck is making its way in. Put on my glasses here because this could happen. Okay, big boys. Yep, he's coming. Okay, he's on his way in. The big one's on his way in. I'm gonna get some yardages first. Okay, we're good. This could happen. Okay, that smaller one's coming. He's coming in. Heart Attack's probably like 90 yards, coming straight for us. This is incredible. Okay. That little buck is probably 25 yards. Heart Attack's going behind those trees. It's gonna happen. As soon as he clears those trees, I'm gonna take him. Yes! Got him. Go down, go down. Okay, just lost sight of him. I think we did it, folks. Yes! That shot looked good to me. Whew.
Do you believe that just happened? We had the biggest deer of my life come across this wide open field. I am shaking like crazy right now. I think we should head back to the camp, check the video out, get some flashlights, and come back here and lay hands on Heart Attack. Yes, beauty.
Well, folks, we just got back in the woods, and I tell you, I really don't know what to say. I'm speechless for words right now. And we knew where he went down, but I wanted to go home, give him time. We looked at the video, and we're about 10 yards shy of him right now. Come along with me and share really this once-in-a-lifetime moment. Look at that thing. My Lord. Holy smokes. This deer is, I would say, close to seven years old, maybe 8 years old. We've been after him pretty hard for the last 2 years. And one thing that's really hard to show is just how difficult it is to get an opportunity at one of these big, smart whitetail deer. You're looking at probably 3 years, 50 days a year in the field, say 6 hours a day. I mean, you're approaching 700 hours for that 3 minutes, that 30 seconds of an opportunity. And you've heard me say before, trust in your gear. I can't even begin to thank all of my partners, because when you have an opportunity like this that is so brief, but when that window opens, you have to take it, and you're rewarded with a beautiful, once in a lifetime archery whitetail deer like this. Just a big, clean 10-point. And we call this buck Heart Attack. And I really think that's self-explanatory, because when you see a giant like this step out, your heart stops and it leaves you speechless. And I don't know what else to say. Hard work pays off on an Ontario brute of a whitetail deer. So thankful. Looking back on this late season, everything just turned out so perfect. I don't think I could have asked for anything better. Brittany had filled the tag and she'd supplied some meat for the family. I had done the same thing late season. Everything just worked out to a T. And I was filled with a myriad of emotions. One is happy and joy because all of my hard work has paid off. The other part of me, I mean, there's some sadness because I'm closing the chapter of a book on a buck that I've hunted for many, many years. I probably have at least over 300 to 400 hours in the tree stand waiting for that 3 seconds of an opportunity. Looking forward to next year. I know there's another crop of bucks that are gonna be nice up-and-comers, and I'm superly looking forward to next year's whitetail season.
The Canadian Tradition has been brought to you by Ram, built to serve. Cabela's, world's foremost outfitter. Under Armour, go where you don't belong. Polaris, the world leader in off-road. Steel, get the job done. Winchester, the American legend. Leupold, be relentless. Toyo Tires, driven to perform. Lund Boats, the ultimate fishing experience. WeatherTech, nothing protects like WeatherTech. And by Ducks Unlimited Canada, our wetlands, our future.
Follow The Canadian Tradition on Facebook and make sure to visit thecanadiantradition.com for news, contests, and show recipes.